It's time to have your say. Welcome back to the Q&A. Ask SCW, answering your questions in the wrestling community straight after this. Back once again answering your questions. We've got many great topics today on WWE, including Money in the Bank. We've got Impact Wrestling, AEW, All Out, and much, much more. So without further ado, let's get straight into our first question this week that comes from Jamie, the controversial one, Holmes. And he asks, on the off chance that Drew McIntyre wins the Money in the Bank, how would WWE work around the fact that Drew can't challenge for the WWE Championship while Bobby Lashley is champion? Do you think that Drew McIntyre will be drafted with the briefcase, or will Bobby Lashley lose his title this weekend? It's a fascinating question to kick things off this week because that would be the money question. Now, I'm sure many people are already screaming at this video, but Drew needs a break from the main event scene. He shouldn't win Money in the Bank, and I would agree with all of you. But should Drew McIntyre win the briefcase? I think we've got one of two scenarios, and I think the first one you mentioned there, the idea of drafting to SmackDown, makes a lot of sense because, I mean, Drew feels a bit stale right now, and of course, the easy thing would do would be to turn him heel if he stays on Raw. I don't want that. I like Drew as the babyface that he is. Not sure about the, storytelling with Drew McIntyre over the last few weeks, but I think to put him on SmackDown would be enough of a fresh up, and if he had the Money in the Bank briefcase with him, going after Roman Reigns would make the most sense. But what we could see, which could be almost like a perfect full circle if you want, if Drew McIntyre was to win it and stay on Raw, perhaps he costs Bobby Lashley the championship like Bobby Lashley cost him the championship, then Bobby Lashley won the championship from The Miz to then go and take on Drew McIntyre afterwards. So that could be the way around it. Perhaps Drew cost Lashley the title against Kofi Kingston. Maybe he does it against Goldberg at SummerSlam. Who knows? And at that point, Drew McIntyre then can go and challenge for the championship on Raw. Now, where this would be fantastic from a storytelling aspect and the fact as well it's got continuity from what happened with last year's Money in the Bank briefcase, I don't think it fits Drew McIntyre's character. So in one way, although it would be kind of fun to see, I don't think it would work. So in my personal opinion, I would have Drew McIntyre go to SmackDown, regardless actually whether he wins Money in the Bank or not, but then he could go and cash in one-on-one straight up against Roman Reigns. I feel that that would make the most logical sense in my personal opinion. DW with our next question now. Do you think any of the current Money in the Bank competitors are actually World Championship ready apart from Seth Rollins and Drew McIntyre? Interesting question. I have to say, yes, I think Kevin Owens is perfectly ready. I mean, KO has been a former Universal Champion, a long-term Universal Champion. Of course, he's kind of been out of that championship scene for a long time, but you can see KO is getting a lot of momentum. I think he had a great program with Roman Reigns towards the turn of the year. Of course, he went on to WrestleMania with the program with Sami Zayn. Of course, gave the stunner to Logan Paul. Got a great pop when he did that. And when you look at SmackDown last night, the pop that KO got when he came out, I really hope that Kevin Owens wins Money in the Bank, just purely because he's been teasing on Talking Smack that he's still coming for Roman. He's not done with Roman Reigns. He's been letting Paul Heyman know at any given opportunity, but also because I just think KO just needs that little bit of a push. He needs the belief from management that he could be someone that could actually carry a, one of the shows, one of the brands, whether it's Raw or SmackDown. So I'd like to see KO win Money in the Bank, and I do think that would be a perfect prop for him to do so as well, whether he's beating someone that you would say, well, he wouldn't beat a Roman Reigns. With Money in the Bank, KO would be smart and clever with it, and I think he could actually make the cash-in work as a babyface and still be a babyface and still kind of do that heel tactic of doing it. So that would be quite an interesting way to do it. And of course, KO is no stranger to being a heel either. So for me personally, I think KO would be, of all of those other superstars, someone that would be ready. Someone that's red hot with momentum is Riddle. And I think that if you were to give him the Money in the Bank, I wouldn't say he would be ready this second, but I think by the end of the year, or even before that, the way Riddle is going right now with the stuff he's been doing with RK Bro, it's definitely been the highlight, or one of the main highlights of watching Monday Night Raw. And I think with a short-term build, whether it's a feud with Randy Orton or whatever happens going forth with that, I think Riddle could be someone that could be ready very quickly if he was to win the briefcase this Sunday. We'll give a quick minor mention just before we go to the next question actually about Shinsuke Nakamura, or King Nakamura. I mean, he's been totally repackaged. He's a former Royal Rumble winner, had a WWE Championship match at WrestleMania 34. You would argue that maybe if Nakamura was to win Money in the Bank, that this would be the perfect push to put him in a position to go for that sort of main event picture again. But I personally would say I don't know if it would be ready at this point, and I wouldn't have faith if WWE gave him Money in the Bank that he would cash in successfully at this moment. I'd love to be proven wrong, because I'd love to see Nakamura have a championship run in WWE with one of their top championships. But it's certainly, I'm enjoying what they're doing with Boogs at the moment, with the entrance and stuff like that. It really feels like Nakamura has got his edge back in WWE for the first time in a long time. Yeah, probably he's someone that's halfway there for me, that I could see him if he was to be given the Money in the Bank briefcase, but I wouldn't necessarily have faith that they would go all the way. Like you say, would he be championship ready? Certainly a question mark I would have at this point. Skate uphill with our next question now. Which competitor from each Money in the Bank ladder match can gain the most without winning the briefcase? Fantastic question, this one. I mean, when you look at then, as we talked about the men's in the last question, I mean, you've got a showcase potential moment for someone like a Ricochet, a John Morrison, to really prove themselves breaking out on their own, and why this should be pushed further up the card. Of course, they're arguably the spot monkeys of the match, but I would turn around and say that perhaps Riddle would have the most to gain in one way. Say if Randy Orton was to come in and cost him the match, because Randy obviously didn't get into this match due to, you know, Riddle not being able to get him back in when Randy Orton was missing, and also arguably distracted or cost Randy that match on the build. So you could turn around and say that could be something where it could build there, and then Riddle would have the most to gain going forth. Also, as well, I could turn around and say that Drew McIntyre, you may say in the long run, may gain something, because by not winning it, because I do believe Jinder Mahal will cost him in the match. I think that one is the one that I would say I've got more confidence in happening, and I would turn around and say that with Drew then going to a arguably mid-card program with Jinder Mahal, and then can, you know, refreshing himself up before going back into the main event. I think when he goes back into the main event, he will definitely then have the most to gain, because people won't sour on it. So I suppose if I had to pick anybody, I would go Drew McIntyre for the men, because I'm really confident he's not going to win this match. As for the women, I'm going to go for Liv Morgan, and my reasoning for it is because Liv Morgan is over. You looked on SmackDown last night, there was cheers going on there. She is the one with the momentum going into the match. She has been winning match after match after match. So for me personally, I want to see Liv Morgan do it. I think a lot of people want to see her do it. I don't think though that she will do it, and I think that that will give perhaps fans a reason to get behind her more. So therefore, in the long term, I think that rather than just winning Money in the Bank and having an opportunity to perhaps win a championship, and she may or may not do it, by actually not winning this match, she could get more longevity out of it, because fans will be more behind her, and of course now with fans being back, hopefully creative management, whatever, WWE will take notice. So for that reason, I would say Liv Morgan if she's not to win this match. Mike, at Habs Mike, with our next question now. What possible surprises or swerves might we see this Sunday at Money in the Bank? Got to think with crowds returning that WWE might go all out, hoping to win fans back. Great question, this one, and I know that Mike does go on to say in another comment the idea of perhaps Lesnar coming back to cost McIntyre in the Money in the Bank, and that could lead to them facing off at SummerSlam, and then obviously Drew McIntyre could get over further. I really like that idea, but you can see at the moment with WWE programming, the direction looks to be Drew versus Jinder Mahal, and I think that they will continue with that to SummerSlam. So I think that Jinder will be the one to cost Drew, and of course, yeah, probably not what you're looking for if you're after Brock Lesnar to be in that role, but Brock, if he was to come in, perhaps confront Lashley afterwards, would be amazing. Rumour mill is suggesting though that Goldberg and Lashley could be the direction, but if you want to give swerves, I mean, Money in the Bank is perfect for it, because the Money in the Bank ladder matches are designed to build and make new stars. Recently doing my retro from 2011, I didn't feel Daniel Bryan was the favourite when he won the SmackDown Money in the Bank ladder match back in 2011. It seemed like a real shock, and fans really got into the idea of when he did that at the end. So that would be a nice shock and surprise if you see someone like a Liv Morgan or a Ricochet or a Riddle win that match. I personally am unsure at the moment, out of two of the three of them, that they would actually do that at this present moment, but that would be a nice swerve in itself. But I would expect that we could see Becky Lynch return this Sunday, because with Rhea Ripley and Charlotte taking on one another, you could see that they might see Becky Lynch to come back on pay-per-view, make that sort of, you know, big deal of it, and then it builds to the match at SummerSlam. They might want to save that for Raw as well. But you mentioned as well the idea of all these things. I mean, Kofi Mania, could it happen again? Kofi 2.0? I personally don't see it with him versus Lashley, but it certainly will be interesting to see what surprises they do come up with. But yeah, I mean, we're expected a host of names that could be returning, perhaps coming up from NXT as well. So we'll have to wait and see what will happen this Sunday. But I think the Money in the Bank is looking like it's going to be a very special event, and I do think that this could be possibly the best Money in the Bank pay-per-view for a long time, definitely in the last decade, if all can go to plan this Sunday. So I have to wait and see. But we're going to go more into surprises as we go into our next question from Noob and Co. And Noob asks, what surprises will we see when fans return? New characters, new storylines? Well, I hope a combination of both, but definitely from surprises aspect. I mean, we've seen already, Finn Balor actually returned last night to SmackDown, obviously no longer going to be on NXT. Of course, he, attacked Sami Zayn with the conspiracy stuff. Great, I can't wait to see Finn Balor versus Sami Zayn. That seems like an awesome match and an awesome feud that could happen. I just hope that we get NXT Finn Balor and not the smiling Finn that we kind of got on, Raw and SmackDown previously. I want to see that NXT Finn Balor we've had, which really dominated while he was down there, come back then, really have that edge about him. So yeah, for me, I'm hoping we're going to get that, and I think it's the first of more surprises to come. I mean, obviously we can see Sasha Banks coming back, we can see Becky Lynch coming back. Both probably will be in championship matches at SummerSlam. Rumours, as I mentioned in the last question, Goldberg is expected to return as well to go against Lashley at SummerSlam. I'm presuming that will be for the WWE Championship. John Cena is expected to return as well. My prediction will be that will be at next Friday's SmackDown event, because that's the SmackDown after Money in the Bank, so that make the most logical sense to build things up for SummerSlam. So there's lots of surprises with returns and stuff. We've had call-ups from NXT. Toni Storm will debut next Friday on SmackDown. We've had Shotzi and Nox as well, and of course, we've seen Aaliyah. It looks like she's left NXT, could be off to Raw as well. More superstars doing dark matches also. I know Davey Boy Smith Jr. also had one last night on SmackDown. I believe Xia Li had one also. So we're waiting for Bronson Reed, Karrion Kross. I think we're going to get the freshest roster we've had for a long time. So I expect that, which should actually in itself give new characters to the screens each and every week. Hopefully as well for fresh storylines. For sure, WWE needs it, and I do hope we're going to get that direction. I think for the short term, for SummerSlam, we've got this stadium environment. They're going to try and get the biggest names possible. If they could get a Brock Lesnar, I'd expect they would try and go all out to get him in as well. But from the rumor mill suggestions, that's not going to happen in the short term. I hope WWE does the right thing with Money in the Bank, builds some new stars going forward. So then you have, the star power that can go into SummerSlam, maybe one or two of these other superstars can really get a rub off from that SummerSlam also, and then as we go in towards the winter, like we say, it's all about building new stars towards Royal Rumble and WrestleMania season for next year. But yeah, I'm excited about it, and particularly after watching SmackDown last night, I thought that I got the buzz back. Fans being back made such a difference to me so quickly. I hope that that's just not a short-term effect of me watching WWE programming. According to rumours, we should have reasons to be excited all throughout this weekend and hopefully going forward. So fingers crossed that we're not going to be let down from what those rumours are suggesting right now. But a lot of things I've said there, yeah, if all of that is going to happen, then I think we've got a lot of things that we're going to be talking about heading into SummerSlam. Lorenzo Carrillo with our next question now for us now. What do you think the pandemic era for WWE helps superstars evolve and progress in having a character or purpose? In a way, yes, and in a way, no. I mean, if you look at WWE's booking and creative, I think that can take any purpose away from any superstar after having a dreaded 3-week push and then just losing and not being put on TV. But for the superstars that have been lucky enough to be on camera and do things for the last 16 months, like I said, it's very different than being in front of a fan base. You really got to go over the top with your character to get your point across over to everyone that's watching at home, rather than just looking for that instant quick reaction that you can get from fans. And I imagine now going back to the other way, as we see with SmackDown last night, would be awesome to see for superstars to get that, but at the same time, to get the genuine instant reaction back, it must be A, so satisfying, but B, like, whoa, like, what's going on here? I've been used to doing this in front of nobody. So it's a very interesting dynamic that you've actually thrown in your question here, and I think with certain superstars, you can see that with character, a lot of them have come out the other side. I mean, Sami Zayn has been absolutely incredible. His mic work as well last night was totally on point. You look at the superstars like Bayley and Sasha Banks, Roman Reigns, that have completely evolved. Otis has evolved the character through this pandemic era, coming in now and almost being presented for the first time last night on SmackDown in front of fans, particularly when you see Otis. They give that big video package there of how different he was, and he was like one of the most over baby faces before the pandemic era hit, and it shows how much sometimes characters have had to change through the last 16 months in that environment. So it is very interesting. I do think characters are going to get across a lot better, actually, with things going forward in WWE. And just hope that WWE's creative will allow them, to be booked well so that they can actually get over really well with the audience. You can see how it's been a masterstroke and how it's been arguably a blessing in disguise with Roman Reigns. That character has been so good to watch in the Thunderdome, and how it translated. And very quickly last night we got a few cheers for Roman, then we got the boos kicked in, and then very quickly Roman established himself to just show that character to be such a badass heel that everyone was booing very, very quickly. And it just goes to show how good these superstars and what they're doing, how their characters have evolved. So it's a fantastic question you've asked, and it's got so many different layers in it. I probably could easily go on for about 20 minutes, but I would turn around and say that characters have evolved and got purpose, and hopefully the creative will allow that to prosper now that we've got fans back. Next question comes from Brit Wrestling Podcast BWF, and this was asked before the announcement was made, so I'm going to just throw that out there before I answer the question. Do you think Becky Lynch will be the last woman in the Money in the Bank ladder match, or was it too predictable? Well, obviously WWE did actually give the announcement not long after this question was asked that Tamina is the 8th person in the Money in the Bank ladder match. It was my first opportunity to talk about it. For me, I'm happy that Tamina's got this spot. It adds a dynamic with the tag team champions being in the Money in the Bank ladder match. Will they get along and work together? Will they have a moment where they not get on with each other? And Tamina was really over at WrestleMania, so a lot of people were disappointed, saying the idea of Becky Lynch, Sasha Banks should be in this spot. Neither of them, in my opinion, need the Money in the Bank. They can just walk back in and walk straight into title matches, and I think that that's what they will do. I do think that perhaps WWE could have given this spot to somebody different. Maybe, arguably, some people would feel this is lackluster. Maybe should have done. Maybe someone like a Shotzi should have had this position instead. But as I said, I mean, Tamina was over at WrestleMania. Why not give her this opportunity here? See if it works now. Do fans still feel the same? And like I said, with the tag team dynamic, it adds something different to this ladder match from what we got with the men. So I am interested in what's going to happen with it. But as for Becky Lynch, like I say, don't worry. Yes, she's not in this ladder match, but I think she'll be in the Raw Women's Championship match at SummerSlam. She'll either return this Sunday at Money in the Bank after the match between Rhea Ripley and Charlotte Flair, or I think perhaps more likely, in my opinion more likely, I think for those TV ratings, I think that she'll actually make her return on Monday Night Raw this week. Moving things over now to Impact Wrestling, Wrestling by Waldridge. Considering the Impact title defenses Kenny Omega's had so far, who do you think will be the one to take the belt off of him? I thought Moose at first, but I'm leaning towards Josh Alexander. Great question, and great minds think alike, seriously. I think Josh Alexander is definitely proving himself that he could be a top talent in Impact Wrestling. There's no doubt that him, Chris Bay, Ace Austin, we've definitely got some future world champions there and some young, hungry stars there of the future. But I think looking at it, Moose should have been the one, but I think there was, areas with the contract around the time they did that match. And also, I don't know what it is, they just don't seem to pull the trigger with Moose in the last however many years. Gets to himself where he looks like he's going to be there as the champion, and then it just doesn't happen. Just the last minute, he loses the title match and he goes back down to the mid-card. I never know why they do that with Moose. I really hope he becomes world champion one day. Maybe it's so that we feel this way, and that when it happens, we'll see it as a big deal. Who knows? But I'm going to say Josh Alexander as well. I've got a feeling he's going to lose the X Division Championship at Slammiversary. But even if he keeps hold of it, he's classified himself as the Impact guy who's the Impact champion, as the world champion is someone from somewhere else. And from that reasoning, if Sami Callihan is not the one to win the belt here this weekend, then why not Josh Alexander? I think that would be a great proving ground. He's got that kind of, he reminds me of like a Kurt Angle with his in-ring style. Maybe not so much on the mic, but definitely when you look at his in-ring talent, it's definitely there. And I think Josh Alexander is a superstar that you could get behind, and I think the Impact wants you to get behind. So I would personally agree with you looking at the Impact roster as it is right now before Slammiversary, because who knows, the world's going to change. Actually saying the time of recording, it's going to change tonight. We don't know who's going to be there after this evening. Right now, my answer for you is going to be exactly the same. I think Josh Alexander. Next question now coming through Wrestling Through Life. What are your predictions for matches at All Out? Great question. I tell you what, with All Out coming out in Chicago, it is going to be a fantastic show this year, and I have faith with the recent additions that AEW have brought in that we're going to have a stacked card once again. I've probably left some names out, but these are some of the matches that I've got in my mind off the top of my head. Of course, the AEW World Championship match I think will be Kenny Omega versus Hangman Adam Page. I think that that's the place they're going to go down with this match. For the Women's Championship, I'm going to go for Britt Baker to defend against Ty Conti. She seems to be still getting a lot of victories, and I think McIntyre Conti deserves a pay-per-view match, so Baker versus Conti I would go with. I think it seems kind of obvious Cody Rhodes against Malachi Black, I think will go down at this pay-per-view. Andrade looks to be wanting to know what's going on with Death Triangle, so I'm going to go for Andrade elina versus Pentagon. I think for the Tag Team Championships, the Young Bucks to go against Proud and Powerful, Santana Ortiz and FTR in a three-way, because I don't think we've seen many three-ways at this particular moment in AEW, so we've seen it with the World Championship at the last one. Let's see it with the Tag Team Championships on this one. I'm going to go for John Moxley and Eddie Kingston to take on the Good Brothers, because there seems to be something on with those two teams right now. Perhaps that's going to be your street fight, your hardcore match of the evening, perhaps with these sort of teams. I think for the TNT Championship, I'm going to go for Miro to defend against Orange Cassidy, and as well, I think you have to look at Christian Cage and Jungle Boy. There looks to be a little bit of a friendship blossoming, but also a little bit of jealousy creeping in, because you see Luchasaurus having Christian on the shoulders last week on the show, and you just see the look that Jungle Boy gave. So I'm interested to see where that dynamic will go. So that's the kind I've got in my head at the moment. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Do you think more matches will be added? What matches do you want to see? Let me know. I'm looking forward to knowing your thoughts about AEW All Out. And let's not forget, it's a great place for debuts as well, for people to come in. So would we see the likes of a Buddy Murphy come in? Would we see CM Punk in Chicago? Let me know in the comments below right now. What do you think? What's going to happen? What matches? What will we see at AEW All Out this year? Let's turn our attention to NXT now. Mr. 1925 with our next question now. I've been saying this for months now, but it seems people are starting to realise that the cross jacket is a ridiculous finisher and perhaps as bad as the STFU. It was strange watching Joe lay there when he could just easily slide free. Who is responsible for this move? From what I can tell, Cross in his personal life seems to know how to apply a rear naked choke, so why does he keep cupping his ear like this? It's a really interesting question, isn't it? I must admit, I was kind of feeling the same thing. I'm not a big fan of the cross jacket, and it's not the worst finisher I've seen of all time. There are some worse ones out there. I mean, you made reference to the STFU. I personally hate, when, I think it was Alberto Del Rio that did this, where he would jump off the turnbuckle to give a double stomp on someone that's just holding themselves up on the rope. Why did the superstars just let themselves go? Why would they hold themselves there for like half a minute while Alberto's getting ready to jump off, do a double stomp? Just didn't make any sense. So that's my personal least favourite. But looking at this, yeah, I would say, why has he got his hand there? It just doesn't really add up, does it? Like you say, a rear naked choke would work perfectly well. So, yeah, I don't know who's responsible for it. I don't know what the situation was there. I wish I could give a better answer, really. I'm guessing it's creative, really, from that point of view of trying to make it look like, well, you're carrying Cross, you want to do something that's like a straight jacket finisher, let's have it where you're kind of doing it where it's like that. So, I don't know, that's kind of the explanation I can give. I like his side of suplex. I think that's an awesome looking move. It sets up perfectly for a finisher. I'm still not a big fan of the forearm actually to the back of the head either. I kind of wish Karrion Kross is that superstar. I think that needs a dominating looking finisher. And I think he was doing like multiple power bombs on Johnny Gargano this week, and I felt myself, Brock used to do that. And a lot of people make the comparison with the two. Perhaps it's an unfair comparison in my opinion, but I think perhaps Karrion Kross could do a move like that, maybe 2 or 3 power bombs like that, and I think it'd look really darn impressive, and I think that would be a great way to finish matches off, if you ask my personal opinion. Although, at this point, cross jacket, I don't know what you'd give as a cross bomb. I don't know what you'd do for a finisher's name, but hey, the move looks impressive. I think that's the most important thing of all. We can think about the name second. Underground of our next question now, of course, TNT official on YouTube. Make sure to check them out. AskSCW then with their question, with WWE re-signing Zelina Vega to a brand new contract, do you see it as an in-ring competitor or valet/manager? If so, hear me out on a possible pairing for Zelina Vega. With the 2021 WWE draft coming up soon, and with NXT being involved, could a possible call-up for Santos Escobar be an ideal choice for a Raw in the United States Championship picture with Zelina Vega as the valet? Possible feuds for Santos Escobar when he finally becomes the United States Champion. You've got Angel Garza, Cedric Alexander, Humberto Carrillo, Gran Metalik, Lince Dorado. You've got John Morrison, Mustafa Ali, Ricochet, Rey Mysterio, amongst others there, I'm sure also. Yeah, I mean, it's a fantastic suggestion. I think, personally, if you're asking my opinion, Zelina Vega, I think, can work very well as an in-ring competitor, but I do love her work as a valet and a manager as well. And I think, rather than just Santos Escobar, the whole Legado del Fantasma stable to have a female member, kind of like what Hit Row has got going right now on in NXT with the 3 guys and 1 female in the stable. Yeah, I think it's a great pairing. I think it's a great match. I think it would work really, really well. Santos Escobar, if he is brought up, and I think he should be brought up, whether it's the Raw or SmackDown, I think the guy's got all the tools to be a great use of talent on whichever show he's brought to. And I think, like you said, that the mid-card championship would be the perfect start. And perhaps a pairing with Zelina Vega. I think for Zelina Vega, it would be great actually for her as well, because it would give her more TV time, because she probably, at the moment on SmackDown, you've seen she's come back the 1 week, made the instant impact. She wasn't on last week. This week on SmackDown, she was in a commentary role. She will be in Money in the Bank this weekend, but it'll be interesting how she'll be booked and used after that. So as much as I want to see her in ring, I'd like to see, she's got multiple talents. She can be in ring and do the valet thing, so why not both? And yes, why not with Legado del Fantasma? I think it's a great idea, and I like the feuds as well. Last one coming from Elijah. Mandy Rose got called back to NXT. Do you think Triple H did the right thing or wrong here? Maybe she finds a new character now and possibly to form a stable. And do you think we'll see more main roster back in NXT? And who would you like to see? Personally, for Elijah, he wants Drew Gulak. Well, let me answer that part first there, because I really got captivated when I saw that. Drew Gulak back in NXT, I really like that as well. We could go for the Cruiserweight Championship. He's got great character work, and I think he would be used better. You saw his run on SmackDown last year when he was in and around with Daniel Bryan. I think it'd be great. He'd almost be a great fit for the Diamond Mine, wouldn't he? I think that'd be quite cool as well. So yeah, Drew Gulak would be good, and I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case. Like you said there, certain superstars, if they're not got plans for them on Raw or SmackDown, why not put them back to NXT? We saw it in the early days. We've seen it in recent days. Finn Balor came back to NXT, worked really, really well. Back in, back when NXT started in this sort of environment, we saw the likes of Jinder Mahal. We saw the Usos, Cesaro make regular appearances on NXT to just get them a bit more over for what they were doing on Raw and SmackDown. So yeah, I'm personally a fan of it. And Mandy Rose, like you say, has come down to NXT again. I'm not quite sure what goes on with the tag team now with Dana Brooke. That seems a bit baffling to me. There's a program going on as well with the tag team champions, so that kind of is a bit of a disappointment that that's just been thrown to the side with being forgotten about. It would have been great for a kickoff match for Money in the Bank this Sunday and then move Mandy on. But from the belief of what I understand, reading in the rumor mill, is that it's been a trade that Mandy Rose goes to NXT, Aliyah is going to go to Raw, and yes, Mandy Rose seems to be involved with an idea of this form of team stable. So Frankie Monet and Jessica Mayer, Robert Stone brand, probably it's going to be there as well. Maybe Mandy takes over. It looks like Mandy's scouting to manage a talent or be involved in a tag team with a talent. It's going to be interesting to see what the dynamic plays out with this. Be interested to know the logic and explanation as well. I'm very interested with what will happen in the upcoming weeks on NXT. But as for more superstars going to NXT from Raw and SmackDown, if they're not getting TV time, why not? Because I do think a lot of superstars from NXT are on the way to Raw and SmackDown, and you can tell that even further with the introduction now of the NXT Breakout Tournament for the second time. But that's all for me this week, anyway. Thank you everyone for their questions, and yeah, apologies again. This week I did a thing where it was like one question only from everybody, just purely from a timing perspective. Unfortunately for mine, it's a bit busy the schedule the next few weeks, but I do promise to try and keep out as many videos and content as possible. Looking to try and do a live video this week as well. Also going to try and do Money in the Bank live predictions potentially today. If I don't get time to do it live, I will do a normal video version for you today, so look out for Money in the Bank predictions. They will be dropping today, and as well as that, like I say, Slammiversary, if you're into that, the predictions are on the channel for you right now. Gives you all the prep you need going into that pay-per-view, which of course is this evening. But that's all from me. Thank you for watching, and if you want one other video you can go and watch right now as well, is my retro review. SCW Rewind is back with Money in the Bank 2011. Thank you for watching as always. Like, share, subscribe. I look forward to interacting with you in the comments on every topic discussed today. If you want to be involved on the next video, then you can follow me on Twitter, Instagram or Facebook, all coming up on your screen right about now, or you can drop a comment on YouTube as well. Leave the hashtag AskSCW with your question, a note to include it in the next episode. But that's all from me. Thank you for watching. Have yourselves a good one. You've been watching Ask SCW here on YouTube. Have yourselves a great day.